Hello, everybody. Hope everybody had a good day with all family yesterday, Christmas and everything. Mine was good. Had ham and rib. It wasn't steak and rib. It was ham and rib at my sister's. So and got to talk with my nephew, and he got the checks already for 1776 military check. So that was good. They got it. So yep, everything's good. So we're going to have two shows today until we get caught up on news. We are behind on news. My football teams are out of the playoffs, so football is gone. Now it's hockey and basketball. You at work, Lucy? Are you off? And head up there. Come on. Oh, you get the long weekend off? That's good. So we got sleet today, sleet and rain today. Roads are kind of icy a little bit. And so, what did your boss say yesterday and your grandson? Yeah, so Lucy, another Christmas, nothing happened. Oh my goodness. I don't know what's going to happen. These people saying Christmas time, well, it's gone. It's going to happen New Year's Eve. So we just got to keep staying together, I guess, everybody. Everybody's hurting. And doing this every day helps everybody. I know it helps me coming on every day. Yep, Lucy. Yep. Yep. Hopefully something good will happen soon, someday. Carol. I gave everybody on the phone the link, so hopefully Kay will be in. We'll do a lot of short videos these first 2 hours, and then we'll get the big ones tonight. I must have at least 8 Q videos. And then that one lady, I got a bunch. Then there's a bunch of other stuff. Well, at least there was no major terrorist attack last night, huh, you guys? That's good news. No major attack. So yeah, California. That Newsom, they got a lot of fraud going on in California. So we got California, Chicago, Minnesota. Looks like every state is going to be getting it.
Here are the most recent deaths in the
So I'm going to go ahead and get started so we can get quite a bit out. I know everybody's still enjoying Christmas and everything, so there'll probably be a lot listening. So I came across this guy that we used to listen to. That one lady with her brother. He's on TikTok now, so he was good. So we'll play that one first. Time to relax, buddy. Hey, Carol. Yeah, I got some things on Michigan too. Bill.
Omar that you don't want to miss. All right.
4
These
minutes.
alleged
Remember
fraud
this guy?
allegations are coming out big time. And now nearly 100 Minnesota lawmakers are now coming out and just wrote a scathing letter. So this is about both Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar. Okay. The truth is officially coming out about these two people. Okay. They're saying it's stealing. Minnesota mayor is now sounding off on absurd fraud and spending. Okay, guys, this is absolutely insane, my friends. So we're going to dive into all of these updates. But before we do, we're going to read scripture because God comes first. Amen. So comment amen if you believe that God comes first. Today's Bible reading comes from the book of Proverbs. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. Amen. So leave the word amen in the comment section down below. Merry Christmas, my brothers and sisters. And thank you to everyone who has joined the Invest Like Trump program. I've decided to open it up for just a couple more days because of many of you guys have asked to keep the doors open. We will be closing the doors forever for any new members to join. We are running the Christmas mega sale right now. It's the lowest price we've ever had it. You can sign up with the link below or take out your phone and go to thefinanszone.org and sign up right on your phone in a couple of minutes. There are also payment plans available to make it even more affordable. If you've never invested before, here's your time to learn and take advantage of Trump's economic boom. You don't need a lot of money to start. You can start investing with $5, even $1. It's very beginner friendly, step-by-step and easy, and you can still get your bonus stocks inside the program. Take a look at this.
Well, now investigators are tracking the web of fraud to other Minnesota Democrats, such as Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Many of the suspects linked to the scheme live in her district, including a restaurant owner who hosted events for her. He has since been convicted of stealing $12 million in COVID funds.
What? $12 million? Breaking. Republicans are gearing up to force a House vote to expel anti-American Representative Ilhan Omar from Congress. Yeah, she really does not, she's not really a fan of America. So it does, beg the question, why is she, a congresswoman? Look at this. Representative Fine pushes to expel Ilhan Omar back to Somalia. Take a listen.
We've got a lot of problems with a lot of Democrats, and I think we need to get to the bottom of the issues with Ilhan Omar. I think she engaged in immigration fraud. I think she's covering up Medicaid fraud, and we've got to ask ourselves, why do we want a community in this country where 80% of the people who've been here for decades are on welfare and they're stealing billions of dollars? I want Ilhan Omar to lead the transit back home of all of these people. We've got a lot of problems.
Wow. So do you think she's actually going to get sent home? Look at this. Look at this. Take a listen. $250 million of the Meals Act 2020 led to what? Do you have the audio?
Do you regret pushing forward that bill, the Meals Act? Do you think it led to the fraud?
That it did help feed kids.
Congresswoman, the ICE director is saying now that your son was not pulled over by ICE. He's saying there's no evidence.
How do they know that?
He didn't specify, but he's saying that.
Is he saying he has documentation for all people they pulled over?
So Ilhan Omar, I guess she claimed that her son got pulled over by ICE, and then ICE was like, "We never did that," and now she's out here like smiling and laughing.
We've been asking for that information. We haven't gotten it from them. So if ICE is confirming now that they collect data and refusing to provide it to members of Congress, then that's an interesting omission.
He's also saying that your anti-ICE rhetoric has put agents in danger. What's your take on that? Your response to that?
Well, their crackdown has terrorized my community, so they need to stop.
The crackdown has terrorized her community. What do you mean? What's her?
So that's it. He's on TikTok now. So, Kamala has dating advice, Carol. You might want to listen to this.
And sometimes you're going to receive more than you give. The important piece of this, though, for anyone who is single, who wants to be in a relationship, is to be kind to yourself and choose to be with someone who is kind. That's really important. Mm-hmm. Choose to be with someone who allows you to laugh at yourself and them. Choose to be with someone who, you like going to the grocery store together, taking a walk together, including doing something fancy together. And there are different phases in your life. And depending on what phase you're in, maybe you're going to choose that you want to have that kind of Friday night relationship, or you want that Sunday morning relationship.
Sorry about that one, you guys. I don't want to hear that garbage.
When your enemies are busy destroying themselves, do not interrupt them. And I'm telling you right now, the establishment is in a complete frenzy. Now, one thing I have to say is kudos to Donald John Trump, because he has set the perfect trap for the left. I'll explain to you. So he knew that by doing this first debate, when they did it, that it was going to force the hand of the left. They were going to be forced to have to come to the conclusion that Biden has been a puppet for a very long time, that he is not capable of running the country at his current mental capacity. That was put on display for millions and millions of people. And unfortunately, it was put on display for our enemies as well. But we've been saying on this channel, and many of you guys have been saying for a long time, there's no way that Biden's running the show. So who is the puppet master? Who's behind him? We have our ideas, we've come to the conclusion that Barack Obama is very much involved, especially considering that a huge majority of Barack Obama's top cabinet members are in the Biden White House. But this is where it gets interesting. Now they're looking to get rid of him. Now, in order to get rid of him, it's going to take a coalition. It's going to take the big four, the Clintons, the Obamas, Pelosi, and it's also going to take Chuck Schumer in order to take the keys away from him completely. Now, the interesting part about that is this. All of them have different ideas for who should be the next in line, because they don't necessarily want to be president. They would love to be if they could, but Bill would definitely want Hillary. Hillary would want Hillary. Biden would want Michelle. He wants to be able to pull the strings from behind the curtain, or at the very least, Pritzker being from Illinois. But then you also have Nancy Pelosi, who she would want to see her nephew, Gavin Newsom, get in. So they're all butting heads because they want to be the next kingmaker. But the most interesting part is there are three key swing states, Nevada, Wisconsin, and Georgia, that have very strict guidelines as to what happens or how you can get a candidate off the ballot. Now, the interesting part is that in those three states, you cannot just take someone off the ballot at this juncture. It's too late. The only way they get Biden off the ballot is if, God forbid, he were to pass away, or number two, if they were to declare him, or the 25th Amendment, they were to declare him mentally incompetent and unable. The problem with that is if they do that before the election, then that immediately puts Kamala Harris in. And Kamala Harris is not giving up that spot. So you see, when you practice to deceive and you tangle webs, eventually you get caught in those webs. And so Trump has set that perfect trap, and he is watching the circular firing squad go to work at its finest. It is a full panic over there. And now as we get closer, more and more states, when you get close to the day before the election, at that point, most states will not allow you to make a change to the ballot. So if they're going to do something, it must be done quickly. They have to come to a solution very, very quickly, because after that, there is almost nothing that they can do to get the next person on the ballot. Let me know what you guys think about this thing, guys.
Get Potato Head off the ballot. Hey, that's the first cue. I got two-part Tulsi Gabbard and Maxine Waters. Shoot. Ah.
Three-year political career. She called a decorated combat veteran a traitor to America on live television during a congressional hearing. Tulsi Gabbard's response: Congresswoman Waters, shall we discuss your finances? Your daughter's $1.2 million. Your husband's bank bailout. Your $6 million mansion while your district lives in poverty. What happened next will end her career forever. Smash that like button, because you're about to witness the most devastating political takedown in congressional history. This combat veteran who served 2 tours in Iraq is about to expose everything with documented evidence that will shock you to your core. Maxine Waters thought she was untouchable. She thought her 33 years of seniority made her immune to scrutiny. She thought her position as Financial Services Committee chair gave her unlimited power. She thought calling her critics traitors would make the evidence disappear. She was wrong. When you attack someone who's been shot at in combat zones and has intelligence training in evidence compilation, you better be ready for war. And Tulsi Gabbard came prepared with 4 binders of documentation that would destroy 33 years of carefully constructed political protection in a single afternoon. This is the day America discovered that one of the longest-serving members of Congress has been enriching her family for decades, while her constituents suffer in poverty. The House Financial Services Committee hearing room buzzed with the usual Washington energy. Staffers rushed between members, reporters claimed seats, cameras were being positioned. It was supposed to be routine testimony on national security and financial regulations, just another Wednesday morning in the Capitol. Tulsi Gabbard sat at the witness table with the unmistakable bearing of someone who'd served in combat. The former congresswoman from Hawaii, now Director of National Intelligence, wore a simple dark suit with an American flag pin on her lapel. Her posture was erect, but relaxed, her expression calm and attentive. This was someone who'd been shot at in Iraq and wasn't about to be intimidated by congressional theater. At the elevated committee dais sat Maxine Waters, 86 years old, serving her 33rd year in Congress. As Maxine Waters just made
Okay, part 2 coming up. 33 years. Wow.
the viral moments of reclaiming my time in hearings with bank CEOs and Treasury secretaries. Her signature aggressive style had made her famous, beloved by progressives, and seemingly untouchable. Tulsi began her opening statement professionally. Madam Chair, Ranking Member, distinguished members of the committee, thank you for inviting me to testify today. My testimony will address critical national security vulnerabilities in our financial systems. Waters interrupted sharply, her voice cutting through the chamber. Point of order. I have serious questions about this witness. Tulsi looked up calmly, waiting. I question whether this witness should even be allowed to testify before this committee. Waters declared, her voice rising with practiced indignation. Ms. Gabbard has a documented history of supporting dictators, spreading Russian propaganda, and undermining American foreign policy. She visited Bashar al-Assad, a war criminal. She has repeatedly echoed Kremlin talking points. She has been called a Russian asset by serious national security professionals. The room stirred. Republican committee members shifted uncomfortably. Democrats nodded along. Cameras zoomed in, sensing drama. Waters pointed at Tulsi, her finger jabbing the air for emphasis. Major Gabbard, you dishonor your uniform with your propaganda. You are a traitor to the men and women who actually serve America's interests. You don't belong in this hearing room, and you certainly don't deserve to oversee our intelligence community. The accusation hung in the air like smoke after a gunshot. Waters had just called the Director of National Intelligence a traitor on live television. It was the nuclear option, a violation of congressional decorum, and the most catastrophic miscalculation of Waters' career. The cameras captured Tulsi's face in that moment. There was no anger, no defensive crouch, just a slight smile, the kind that appears when your opponent has walked directly into a trap they didn't see. Tulsi sat perfectly still for 3 long seconds. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet, but carried throughout the chamber with absolute authority. Congresswoman Waters, thank you for that introduction. She reached down beside her chair. The room watched at our center. She'd made a career.
Okay, that was an update on Maxine there. I think cleaning late back in the hallway.
But apparently, when the left's political allies are under investigation, it's suddenly a witch hunt. I mean, after J.D. Vance calmly explained that no one is above the law, not even John Bolton, Kristen Welker still wouldn't let go of the narrative. She kept pushing this idea that Bolton was being targeted simply because he criticized the president.
Ambassador Bolton is a frequent critic
Sure.
of President Trump's. He's also on Kash Patel's enemies list. The administration has already revoked his security clearance, Secret Service protection. Is Ambassador Bolton being targeted because he's a critic of President Trump?
No, not at all. And in fact, if we were trying to do that, we would just throw out prosecutions willy-nilly like the Biden administration DOJ did, prosecutions that later got thrown out in court. If we bring a case, and of course, we haven't done that yet. The Department of Justice has not done that yet. We are investigating Ambassador Bolton, but if they ultimately bring a case, it will be because they determine that he has broken the law. We're going to be careful about that. We're going to be deliberate about that because we don't think that we should throw people, even if they disagree with us politically, maybe especially if they disagree with us politically. You shouldn't throw people willy-nilly in prison. You should let the law drive these determinations.
You'd think Kristen might back off after that response, but no, she doubled down. Because in her world, being a critic of Trump is supposed to make you untouchable, no matter what you've done. But J.D. Vance didn't flinch. He took the shot and fired right back at her, reminding the media that just because they see retribution doesn't mean it's real. And maybe, just maybe, they should stop projecting and start paying attention to the facts.
But a lot of people have already looked at this and said, this looks a lot like retribution. Is this retribution?
Well, who has said it looks a lot like retribution, Kristen? A lot of people who tried to throw Donald Trump in prison for completely fake charges that were later thrown out by multiple different courts. I suspect that if the media and the American people let this case actually unfold, if they let the investigation unfold as it's currently doing, they're going to find out that what we're doing is being very deliberate and being very driven by the national interest and by the law here. And that's as it should be.
Exactly. The same people who spent years trying to jail Trump on bogus charges, they now expect us to panic the moment one of their own gets a visit from the FBI. Sorry, but accountability, it's not retribution, unless you've gotten so used to immunity that you have forgotten what justice actually looks like. Now, over at Fox News, they're praising the FBI for not leaking information about this investigation like we used to see Comey do on a regular basis. Take a look.
The people that are complaining about revenge or weaponization probably should have spoke up back in 22 and 23, among other years, if they really wanted to be consistent on this. And what I love so far is we're not getting a bunch of leaks. This is not Jim Comey with his special employee to leak things to the New York Times to tell you everything about the evidence and to justify themselves politically. We're all sitting here guessing and saying we don't know where this is going. That's a good sign that law enforcement's treating it professionally.
That's an excellent supposed to work based on evidence.
Okay, that's one of hers. I got a bunch more. Someone's in the hallway.
Activist rulings. The result? An illegal immigrant, wife beater, human trafficker, and gang member gets to stay free in the U.S. for Christmas.
Chico!
He will be at home through Christmas and New Year.
Cheering for criminal illegals dodging accountability. That's where we are now. I mean, at least if you're one of the ones the media lovingly labels a Maryland dad, right? Well, over in Birmingham, Alabama, we're finally seeing some reality strike there. A BLM co-founder who spent years painting cops as racist and violent was arrested and put in jail on domestic violence charges. You truly cannot make this up.
We have some breaking news just into the WBTM 13 newsroom. A co-founder of Black Lives Matter Birmingham has been arrested.
According to jail records, Eric Hall was arrested late last night and charged with domestic assault. The charge is listed as a misdemeanor. Records show he remains behind bars at the Birmingham City Jail.
And the irony, it doesn't stop there. Once released, Eric Hall immediately played the victim and even defended other inmates still behind bars. Watch this.
Some who don't even have access to a simple sink are forced to use toilet water to simply take a simple wash up. These conditions are inhumane, and everyone deserves to live with dignity and respect regardless
Chico.
of whatever criminal charges
Stop.
or whatever the city or the state have imposed on our people.
Did he just accidentally say all lives matter? Because last I checked, what's actually inhumane is domestic violence. The person abused by this man also deserves dignity and respect, Mr. Hall. But I guess that didn't register in your heat of the moment. These people are some of the biggest hypocrites walking the planet. Meanwhile, someone else trying to desperately change the subject is Zohran Mamdani. His transition team is imploding at this point. One high-profile hire already stepped down over anti-Semitic posts, and now multiple others are being exposed for disturbing anti-Semitic statements they made after October 7th. When asked if he plans to remove them, you ready for this answer? Watch this.
I think there's no tolerance for anti-Semitism, and also when we're thinking about critiques of Zionism and different forms of political expression, as much of what this report focuses on, there's a wide variety of political opinion, even within our own 400 plus transition committee on the Israeli government and its conduct.
Translation? Yes, there are anti-Semitic extremists on my team, and no, I'm not doing anything about it. See, when people tell you who they are, you should believe them. And Mamdani has told us loud and clear exactly who he is. And this is the guy that is set to take over New York City in just a few weeks. Good luck to them. This should be something to watch, and I will have all the latest fallout as it.
Okay, I got a 3-parter with one of the older ladies on TikTok.
Steve Witkoff met with Vladimir Putin, while Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with his Russian counterpart. 3 nuclear superpowers converged in overlapping meetings, and London is in absolute panic mode because these 3 nations together have the power to end British imperial control once and for all, and Donald Trump knows it. Not only is he building new alliances with the other superpowers, he's targeting the very lifeblood of the British Empire, drug money flows. But that's not what you'll hear from the mainstream media or from all too many influencers in MAGA world who are still drinking Britain's geopolitical poison that says Russia or China or both will forever be our adversaries, and that we must tie ourselves forever to NATO and Europe and Ukraine and the US-UK special relationship. While that's what they're still peddling to try to disorient the MAGA movement, the Anglo-American elites themselves know better. They know that the world is shifting away from them. And the establishment's Wall Street Journal has recently been sounding the alarm, as these 2 headlines show. The first one says, Trump's push to end the Ukraine war is sowing fresh fear about NATO's future. And the second one, Europe fears it can't catch up in great power competition. Now, RT gleefully covered that second Wall Street Journal article, highlighting the point with this quote: U.S., Russia, and China enhance their economic, technological, and military dominance, while Europe stays behind. I'm Susan Kokinda, and since the 1970s, I've looked at how the British game masters have played the modern version of their imperial great game, keeping the superpowers pitted against each other in perpetual conflict. All the while, the global elites continue their control over the world and over nations' economies. And I've documented how the second Trump presidency is challenging that in unprecedented ways. So if this is your kind of fight, please hit the like and share buttons and subscribe to our channel. This is what I'll cover today. First, how Trump's world of sovereign nations is emerging and why the British and the Europeans are still threatening war to stop it. Second, that the target in Venezuela is dirty money flows, not just drugs and not just Maduro. And third, how Trump's cabinet meeting shows the economic alternative. So was it coincidence that Trump's team of Witkoff and Kushner were in Moscow at the same time as China's Wang Yi? Whatever it was, the strategic optics are striking, and they reflect the new reality in the world. Think about what this represents. Since the end of World War II, British imperial strategy has depended on one fundamental principle: keep the superpowers fighting each other. The Cold War, Russia-China tensions, the US versus Red China. As long as the geopoliticians can use the United States as their dumb giant acting in their interests, not in ours, they could keep it up. Well, Marco Rubio made clear yesterday in the cabinet meeting that that world is over.
It's also an honor to be involved in and be a witness to what I believe is the most transformational year in American foreign policy since the end of the Second World War, at least. And it's transformational because for the first time in a long time, we have a president who basically puts America at the forefront of every decision we make in our relations with the world. And that may sound weird to people, like, of course you always do. No, that hasn't always been the case until about a year ago. And I think we've all witnessed in our own respective spaces how in every interaction the president has with the world, the goal he has in mind is very simple. Does what you want us to do, or is it what we're going, or is it going to make us stronger? Is it going to make us richer? Is it going to make us safer? If it is,
something unprecedented just happened in Moscow.
Okay, part one.
Approach to Russia and China is completely different than what has come before. Trump treats Russia as a nation with legitimate concerns, and that's why the Ukraine negotiations are actually moving forward. Similarly with China, last week's Trump-Xi phone discussion and the upcoming summits represent something the British establishment fears more than anything: direct dialogue between sovereign nations outside of their rules-based liberal free trade order. Their great game isn't working anymore, and Europe and Britain are being left out in the cold and are becoming irrelevant. Their response? Try to sabotage the peace process to continue and escalate the war. At a recent Council on Foreign Relations webinar on Ukraine, Liana Fix, their senior fellow on Europe, who, big surprise, studied at the London School of Economics, laid out what she called the playbook to sabotage the peace negotiations. And then she said,
something will build up that resembles actual pressure on Russia, and perhaps over the course of the next year will make Russia's position worse, so that they're not so confident that they can get the upper hand and come through with maximalist demands in the negotiation process. I think that's a European game plan. It does not really include the hope that a fair solution in negotiations might be found. From their perspective, this is more or less just performative politics that they have to push back against, that they have to adapt, and then to try to focus on what is really important, which is to keep Ukraine in the fight and to make sure that Russia's position worsens over time.
But it goes beyond keeping the Ukrainians fighting. The head of NATO's military committee, Admiral Dragon, took it to another level when he said NATO was considering preemptive action against Russia. And retired British General Sir Richard Sheriff, a former top NATO commander who says that Trump is under Putin's influence, declared that war with Russia is inevitable. But here's the reality that these warmongers don't want to face. They have as few cards left to play as does Zelensky. Zelensky has been boxed in by US-directed corruption scandals, and the Europeans, well, they've gutted their economies with green policies, open immigration, and free trade. And the Europeans themselves are likely to be caught up in Ukrainian corruption scandals. So the balance of power is indeed shifting to the United States, Russia, and China, and their cooperation around real physical economic activity. This will leave the banker-run economies of the world behind, and that terrifies the City of London more than anything. So, while the empire wants to keep the war in Europe going, they certainly don't want Trump to take on the real enemy in this hemisphere. Or as J.D. Vance said in a post, "We've been told for decades the U.S. military must go everywhere and do the impossible all over the world. But the red line for permanent Washington is using the military to destroy narco-terrorists in our own hemisphere." So let's look at the backstory of the firestorm over Venezuela and why Pete Hegseth is in the crosshairs. This is where it gets really interesting, because this is where Trump is striking at the financial jugular of the British Empire. The main financial weapons of the British Empire have been severalfold. The obvious side is the official side: central banks, their grip on money flows through institutions like the Bank of England, the Bank for International Settlements, the other central banks. But the underside of this is the trillions of dollars of dirty money that are tied to drug trafficking and other illegal activity. Now, this relationship between the British Empire, the global financial system, and international...
He's for it.
Okay, part 3 coming up. Poor parts. Shoot. Chico.
But if the British establishment and the globalists can flip the Senate, or even just pick up enough seats to empower the rhinos, they can paralyze his agenda for the final 2 years of his term. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. They aren't just writing and talking about it. They're deploying their own man inside the Republican ranks, Mike Pence. Pence was in Britain in mid-November getting tuned up for the job, which he laid out in a speech to Chatham House. Pence positioned himself as the anti-Trump on all fronts. He lined up with Europe on Ukraine, he portrayed China as a mortal enemy, and he extolled Britain's role in creating Christian Zionism. Then he summed it up.
The American people are rejecting the siren song of populism. And I believe they always will. Because America's core character does not change. With one leader, one season in our history, our nation has weathered populists and progressives, isolationists and realists, every shade in between.
Not only that, Pence's organization, Advancing American Freedom, is positioning itself as the future of conservatism, one that rejects Trump's economic nationalism and his challenge to forever wars. Just this week, a large group of staffers from the Heritage Foundation defected over to Pence's think tank. Now, in their coverage of that Heritage defection, the Wall Street Journal laid out the reason. Heritage is supporting too many of Trump's policies. And the article quoted Pence attacking Heritage on exactly those grounds. Pence said the foundation had fallen because it had embraced elements of isolationism, stopped backing Ukraine in the war with Russia, supported some tariffs, and backed Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as HHS secretary, among other things. So this is the Trojan horse. While Trump is fighting Democrats and the obvious enemies, there's a quiet effort underway to rebuild the Never Trump faction of the Republican Party with British institutional backing and position it to take back control in 2026 or 2028. They can't beat Trump directly, so they're playing the long game. Sabotage peace in Ukraine, target the 2026 midterms to break Trump's momentum, and rebuild a respectable Republican alternative for when Trump is out in 2028. But here's what they don't count on. Trump isn't playing by their rules: political, strategic, and especially economic. His economic policies can make them irrelevant through his sheer economic success and by creating a new Republican coalition, which doesn't need the likes of Mike Pence and his fellow travelers and is based on blue-collar workers and a broad coalition of everyday Americans. Trump is building a new American system economy, and if he succeeds, especially if the working class sees real growth, if factories start getting built as they are, if blue-collar Americans can raise a family on one income, then the Pence-Chatham House faction is going to fall on its face and is going to be left in the dust. So look at the economic news this week. In two key areas, the experts were caught flat-footed by Trump's success. Under the headline, "Inflation Cools Faster Than Expected," this article says, the financial markets received a long-awaited gift this morning as the November Consumer Price Index report revealed inflation is easing at a significantly faster pace than Wall Street had anticipated. And then there were the GDP figures, which Trump celebrated with this truth. Third quarter GDP came in at 4.3%. Economic and foreign policy.
Okay, I got one more part. I got a good photo, important one to show, and then a 4-minute news sum update. So that is, wait, was that part 3, Mike? Or we got to do 4? I can't remember if we just did 4 or not. 5 million dirty voters, name removed. I can't remember if that was 3 or 4. I think that was 4.
That's $2.3 billion that could have been used to clean up this, or find housing for people who live like this, or to fix this part of Venice Beach, where people own $1 million homes but are too afraid to walk their dogs because of this. There have already been 2 indictments linked to his probe, but U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley says there are a lot more to come. I spoke with him earlier. Bill, how long has this kind of fraud been going on? I mean, the homeless issue in Southern California is a massive issue. Taxpayers have forked over tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to fix it, and people are stealing it?
It's unbelievable. And, it's probably been going on for a very long time, but unfortunately, no one's really looked at it until recently. Before this position, I was in the state legislature, and we would ask a lot of questions about the billions of dollars being spent every year to solve homelessness. And we can all see with our eyes and ears that it wasn't being solved, and the money wasn't going to the people who needed it most. So one of the first things I did after being appointed as the U.S. Attorney here in L.A. was to create the Homeless Fraud and Corruption Task Force. And frankly, we were starting from the bottom up, and we began brand new investigations with the IRS and the FBI, and it's already culminated in 2 separate indictments, and I can assure you that more will come.
In the 2 indictments you've announced thus far, in one case, somebody was taking this money that was meant to build homes for the homeless and spending it on things like tickets to Coachella concert, jewelry, and a Beverly Hills mansion.
It's frankly outrageous, and this goes to show when you hand out billions of dollars with little to no oversight, there are people out there that will take advantage, and that's always been our suspicion, is that there's been very little oversight or accountability to the individuals who receive this money. Most of the money goes out to nonprofits or developers who claim they're going to use the money to build housing, and what we saw in these 2 investigations, that's not where the money went, and it was used to pay one individual's American Express bill.
So how much, I mean, we're talking a massive amount of money that's been set aside to help the homeless. What percent do you think might be stolen?
We don't have that number yet. What I can tell you is just in these 2 cases represent over a $50 million loss. And that's, again, scratching the surface. We have many more investigations open that I cannot get into, but we are going to follow the money. We're going to follow every dollar, and we want to make sure the money went to its intended objective, which is to assist the homeless. And if any of it was diverted for personal use or other use that wasn't authorized, we intend to criminally prosecute those individuals. And like I said, we have multiple ongoing investigations. We have the IRS conducting the financial review. We have the FBI going out and conducting interviews. We're issuing subpoenas. We're doing search warrants. There is a lot happening that the public cannot see right now.
How did this go unnoticed for so long?
Well, to be frank, this is a problem we saw in the legislature. When you have a state like California that frankly enjoys a supermajority controlled by one political party, there's very little checks and balances in the system to hold that accountability. So when they're passing the budgets and they're dispensing billions of dollars, it does sound good and it feels good to spend $24 billion in the case of California to solve homelessness. And it was almost like that was the end of the story for the legislators and the governor. And a lot of the money was dispensed to nonprofits that have very strong political ties. And there's really, again, never been any oversight. But now you have the federal government. The election was won by the opposite party, and you have an election that has consequences. And now you have prosecutors in the federal government that are independent and are going to take an objective look. And I frankly do not care who is involved, what position they serve or how high up they are. We will aggressively pursue and prosecute anyone that violates federal law regarding the misuse of homelessness funds.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our New Nation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact.
Okay, update on that one. Five minutes.
Right? So what if Satan and his elite minions in charge have been casting spells on us this whole time and putting us under this fog of confusion?
That's about as I
So
can
what if
get
that's how we end Satan? We have to play his game. Shall we play a game? But we flip it. What if they've lied to us about when Jesus's real birth was? What if they've lied to us about where the Holy Land location is? I mean, it's kind of interesting that there's so many places in Ohio with biblical names. That the Ohio River was once called the Jordan, the River Jordan, and also it was part of the Underground Railroad leading up to the Free States, the Promised Land, like the road to Damascus. And there's a Damascus, Virginia up there. Just like Q Post 1744 says, bottom, middle, top. But you flip it. What if we started at the top and we worked our way down? We took out the 13 bloodline families first, the tippy top of the cabal, and we worked our way down. What if one of those top families was the Saudi family? Think October 1st, the shooting at Mandalay Bay, the Jason Aldean concert. While everyone was distracted by the false flag at the concert, Special Ops was taking out the Saudi family who owned the top of the Mandalay Bay. Saudi money was at the tippy top of the cabal. That money helped groom Obama. Look at the date of the Las Vegas shooting, October 1st. That's 10-1. That's 101. Q Post 101. Phil B. O. Extract confirmed. Phil 45. Boom 45. Like the Mandalay Bay went boom 1,000 times. Extract confirmed. What if they extracted most of the Saudi family? It was rumored that there was a plot to kill bin Salman. His own family was plotting to kill him. What if bin Salman was one of our allies, one of the good guys? And look at the timeline here. The false flag event October 1st at the Jason Aldean concert Mandalay Bay, which was really a special ops mission to extract the Saudi family. And then 28 days later, we get our first Q drop. And then just days later in early November, over 400 of Saudi Arabia's most powerful people were rounded up and detained in the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. I mean, these were really powerful people, like more princes, oil tycoons, ministers, CEOs, really powerful people, all detained in this Ritz-Carlton Hotel. This was never seen before in history. It shook the foundations of Saudi society in an instant, turning untouchable establishment figures into targets for arrest. It was epic. The Ritz-Carlton was on lockdown, military lockdown, and they started military tribunals right there in the Ritz-Carlton. Okay, so keep an eye on the timeline. About a year later from this Ritz-Carlton raid in Saudi Arabia was George Bush's funeral, December 5th, 2018. There was many dignitaries at that funeral, including Prince Charles, and it's rumored that the originals were never seen again after that day. So let's look. That's Mandalay Bay, Ritz-Carlton Roundup, and George Bush's funeral. That's 3 booms. That's Q Post 954. Boom, boom, boom. The booms are going down, like Q Post 1744. Top, middle, bottom. Like Q Post 1744. Top, middle, bottom. Bombs away, Merry Christmas. Or what if that timeline is Q Post 844? Boom, 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 boom. 4 booms going down, but we've only had 3. What if we're waiting for the last one? Q Post 860. First boom revealed. The last will be magical. What if we're waiting for the last boom? What if something happens on Christmas Eve again? Q-Post 1038, booms en route. Blind, 5-5, Greencastle, chatter, rigged for silent. Booms en route. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. Like the calm before the storm. Q-Post 1038, blind and chatter. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash. Q-Post 1038, rigged for silent. Silent night. 'Twas the night before Christmas, the calm before the storm. What if it's like Q-Post 1744? Top, middle, bottom. And what if we're in the final stage? What if we're waiting for the last boom? And it will be magical, because we're breaking the spells. What if something really good will happen on Christmas Eve? Bombs away. Merry Christmas.
Well, nothing happened. Everybody's saying.
Communities in the United States, the Somali community. Over the past few decades, Somali refugees and their U.S.-born children have built businesses, raised families, and helped shape the cultural, economic, and civic life of the Twin Cities. Today, we're taking a closer look at Somalis in Minneapolis, their journey, their success, and how civic participation, including voting, is becoming an important part of their story. The Somali story in Minnesota began decades ago. Some of the first Somalis arrived as students and professionals, but the largest wave came in the 1990s and early 2000s. When families fled civil war in Somalia, seeking safety, stability, and a future for their children, Minnesota became home. Today, Minnesota is home to the largest Somali population in the United States. According to the U.S. Census, around 91,000 Somalis lived in Minnesota in 2020. By 2024, Census Bureau estimates from the American Community Survey show that number has grown to approximately 108,000 people of Somali descent, most of them living in Minneapolis and the surrounding suburbs. What started as a refugee story has grown into something powerful. A community that didn't just survive, but built roots. Walk through neighborhoods like Cedar Riverside or step inside Somali malls and marketplaces, and you'll see entrepreneurship everywhere. Somali-owned businesses line the streets. Restaurants, grocery stores, transportation companies, healthcare services, and more. Somali Minnesotans contribute hundreds of millions of dollars in income every year and help generate billions in economic impact across the state. They pay taxes, create jobs, and revitalize neighborhoods that once struggled. For many families, success isn't just measured in money. It's measured in community, in opportunity, and in building something lasting for the next generation. Economic success wasn't the only milestone. Somali Minnesotans also began entering public life. In 2018, history was made when Ilhan Omar became the first Somali American elected to the United States Congress. Locally, Somali Americans now serve on city councils, in the Minnesota State Legislature, and in other leadership roles.
1 o'clock.
These achievements sent a clear message. The Somali community is not just present, it is represented. For many young Somali Americans growing up in Minneapolis, seeing leaders who look like them has changed what feels possible. Minnesota consistently ranks among the states with the highest voter turnout in the country. However, in neighborhoods with large Somali populations, voter turnout has historically been lower than the statewide average. In some areas, only about half of the eligible voters have participated in certain elections. But that number does not tell the whole story. Barriers like language access, lack of civic education, and unfamiliarity with the U.S. political system have played a role. In response, community organizations and local leaders have worked to increase voter education, registration drives, and civic awareness. For many Somali Minnesotans, civic engagement is about more than voting. It's about schools, housing, public safety, and having a voice in decisions that affect daily life. Despite success, challenges remain. Somali Minnesotans have faced discrimination, misinformation, and periods of intense political rhetoric around immigration and identity. These moments have tested the community, but again and again, Somali families have responded with resilience, by strengthening community networks, by supporting one another, and by continuing to engage economically, socially, and civically. Their story is not defined by fear, but by persistence. The story of Somalis in Minneapolis is a story of arrival, of contribution, and of growing civic presence. From businesses to ballots, from neighborhoods to national leadership, Somali Minnesotans are helping shape the future of this city. Thanks for watching. If you found this story
Okay, update news out of Minnesota. So the Dep Cock lady, you guys, let me know, Mike, whoever's in chat, if we played this one or not. I don't think we did. I don't know how many's seen this one.
I interviewed two converts to the LDS Church. Their recent convert left their Christian denomination, one of them being their family's ministry, and converted to the LDS Church. The reason why I have this as my background, because these two converts, their names are David and Trina, came from the sovereign space. Their whole background is studying sovereign law, okay? That is something that the U.S. debt clock has been showing us with the change in the financial system and the way that they explain why they converted to the LDS Church and the background that they have with sovereign law and their knowledge of biblical history, and the way they tie it into the change in the financial system, bringing in Metallicus, XPR network, everything, you guys, is going to blow your mind. I'm going to show you guys just a few clips from the call to give you guys an idea of what is being discussed. We are going to hold another call on Sunday at the same time at 5 o'clock Central. This is seriously something that I am passionate about learning. It's something we need to be paying attention to.
I challenge everybody, if you've never been to LDS Church, we aren't Mormons, we're saints. I love being a saint. But just think about this question. If Jesus Christ, he actually wanted to name a church,
Seen this one?
what would it actually be named? It would be named after him. And we as Christians got to stop saying these things when we say, well, this is a true church. Well, why doesn't it have Jesus Christ's name? Because I wouldn't name a book that was an autobiography about myself. If it wasn't about myself, it'd have my name in there. So I wanted to say, if I was going to be preaching the gospel about Jesus, then I would want to make sure that it had Jesus Christ's name in there. And then we'll have to get into the point of the latter day, because we're still stuck on the Old Testament. People tell you shouldn't add anything to it. And then how do you get the New Testament? You wouldn't have got the New Testament if you didn't add anything to it. But this is to show you the world is confused because they don't understand these things. So I would like to open it up for questions.
That was one interesting point that he made. I get a lot of people bringing that up, which is one of the arguments that I'm always in, because people are posting all this stuff. We are clarifying all of this confusion about the LDS Church on these calls, you guys. There's another interesting point that he made I didn't even know about. Watch this clip.
And I think it's the what, when, where, how, and why. Why is it that we know that Abraham Lincoln was assassinated? Why is it that we know the story of Thomas Jefferson, the almost assassination of Ronald Reagan, the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, but we do not know that there was somebody from the LDS Church that was running for president, that wanted to separate church and state, that wanted to create their own currency, and he did. He was locked up for it. He was charged with treason, and he was running for the president. Now, how is this U.S. history, but we don't know anything about this history? That's where the red flag comes up, because I don't believe that we would just have somebody of this magnitude that had his own currency. He was doing the exact same thing that John F. Kennedy was trying to do. Bring us back to our own currency in the treasury. He was even before Abraham Lincoln. He used it from a sovereign capacity and said, hey, you know what? If we free the slaves and we do not take care of the slave owners, and I'm all about it because I understand sovereignty. Sovereignty is about equity. Equity has to do with God. So what you do for one person, you must do for the others, so there has to be balance. So I understood what he was saying. So he said, hey, if we free the slaves, but we do not take care of the slave owners, there will be a civil war in this country. And guess what happened? There was a civil war in this country. So he prophesied things to happen in the latter days, and he was there way before Abraham Lincoln. But it didn't go that way because people didn't want it to go that way because they didn't want us to bank with the church. That's the spiritual lens. That's what you see when you see Metallicas. You see that banking model from that church model, from lending to each other among the parishioners of the church. I borrow from myself because everything belongs to God. I'm a steward of wealth. That's what Metallicas teaches you, to be a steward of wealth, to loan money, to lend money, to borrow. Because the Bible clearly says that you will go into a strange land and become the borrower, not the lender. We're already doing banking wrong. So you have to be able to look at everything from a sovereign capacity so that way that you see it. Now you get to see it from the church capacity.
Everything David is talking about, you guys, is backed up by what the U.S. Decalogue has been telling us. And it aligns with what the LDS Church built their foundation on, what they've been trying to do. He brought up Joseph Smith, who was assassinated while he was running for president, for doing exactly the same thing this president was trying to do. Think about it, you guys. Think about all the indoctrination Christians have to have a negative perception of the LDS Church. Why? Ask yourselves that. Moving forward.
What we should be doing. In sovereignty, we learned that we hold our own quarter record. We create our own grand petit jury of our own pews with 12 people. We understand we don't have to go into the courtroom because we hold our own court. That's what sovereignty means. It's not what any of y'all think it is. A lot of people say we need to go in through the courts and we need to do this, we need to do that. That's not how the court works. The courts are for those people in the corporation. That's why when you go to court, you'll see you're going against the state. And how can the state be going against you when you were going against one person? So if you get a ticket, you didn't have a ticket against the state. You got a ticket from whatever that police officer is. But if I'm in the state of Texas and I got a ticket, I have to go against the state. So we're supposed to stay out of the courtroom because they can only summons the dead. You can only summons the dead. It's witchcraft. That's why they call it summons. You will be summoned to appear in court. So when you go to court, you're summoning the dead. I'm not a dead. I'm disabled. I use this word because I can do all things through Christ because Christ died on the cross. Because he died on the cross, he allowed me to see things from a sovereign capacity to where you can't trick me if you're just a pastor over there on the other side speaking and actually talking about theology. Because we're going to use the Bible in almost 99.5% of our documents anyway when we're filing certain things out into the courts. So
now, interesting, he brought up you can only summons the dead. Okay. Biblical prophecy says the dead in Christ will rise first, and those who are alive and remain will be caught up and meet them in the clouds or in the air, which is where we see America with the wings of an eagle. You guys, this is all biblical. Moving forward.
And it's once you start really studying the Bible and you understand what sovereignty is, you will realize that we need to be under one accord. I need to be able to call my brother, I think this X Jupiter or Dreaming that's on here, or Play It There, or Mims, or Cryptid, or Marcus, or we don't need all of this confusion. This confusion is what has us all fighting because we're all fighting some type of doctrine when the Bible says we're not supposed to even do that because that brings the author of confusion. And none of these churches are even set up for the end times. This is the only church that's set up for the end times. If something was to happen right now in the United States of America, or anywhere in the world, and I'll show you how you understand how God would actually build his kingdom and the church structure. If anything was to happen, and anywhere in the world, every member of the church, and we'll just use it as a church, of course they would go out and do it, but every member of the church, no matter where it is in the world, we have enough stuff within our Deseret Industry warehouse that's in Utah to actually get us through a whole year. And we're talking about medications, wheelchairs, food, all of that. If we had to go a year and had nothing else, there's enough in the warehouse and with their farms and everything else, just the warehouse alone, for a year's worth of food for we could be able to survive. You're not going to find anything like this anywhere else in the world. It doesn't exist.
Hey, Paul.
And you're not going to see it to where it's structured in the way that it was supposed to be built. If Jesus was building the church, would he not build for a disaster if something was to happen? And think about it when you look at the actual, when we see churches and there's a major incident happening, these churches, they don't do anything. They don't open their doors. They don't want to donate any money. They don't want to do any of that stuff. They just sit around and just wait for somebody to come through the church. And then once you go to church, it just stops. You get baptized, it stops. Nobody shows up to your door. Nobody's going to call and fellowship you. Nobody's going to do any of that stuff. But over here, it doesn't matter. I have people coming to my house probably sometimes 4 times a week.
There's so much more on this call, you guys. It was an hour, almost 2 hours long. Go back and listen to it. We're going to have another call. He is filled with so much information, you guys, and he backs it up with biblical scripture, you guys. He backs everything up on the LDS Church, backs it up with precept upon precept with biblical scripture. So join us this next Sunday at 5:00 p.m. Central Time on my X account.
So I'm not sure. Sorry if I replayed that, but I can't remember. There's so many ones I can't remember on. I think it's a new one. But Sunday she'll have something too, it looks like. So yeah, Paul, I decided to do a lot of shorts for 2 hours and then come back and do all the rest of the good ones later. Go to 1 o'clock, come back at 5. Here's one I'm not sure either. Oh, I got logged in. Shoot. They won't let me play that one. Let me know if we played this one, you guys. I might have. Can't remember.
You heard of Curb Your Enthusiasm? As I understand it, your position, Professor Franks, is that I think you used the word myth. It is a myth that the Biden administration used government to compel speech, private speech.
You guys remember this?
But that the Trump administration is doing that. Is that a fair characterization?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Do you think perhaps you're allowing your personal political beliefs to affect your objectivity here?
No, I do not. What is guiding my answers here is that I'm looking to see what the Supreme Court has said. You notice that in the testimony about the censorship industrial complex.
I got that part.
I just
want to
clarify.
No, but I've only got 5 minutes. Your answer is no, as I appreciate it. Let me ask you a couple questions. You wrote a law review article in December of 2023 for the New York University Law Review, and it was about the 2 cases, Bruin, Supreme Court case, and Dobbs. Remember that article?
Yes, I do.
Okay. In this article, you said, I'm going to quote your words. Taken together, these 2 cases demonstrate that the Supreme Court has embraced the use of the Constitution as a tool of racial patriarchy, end quote. Did you say that?
Yes.
Okay. And then you went on to say, quote, when the Supreme Court declares that there is a constitutional right to armed self-defense in public, it openly embraces and promotes a culture that privileges white men's ability to terrorize and kill those that they perceive as threats, close quote. Did I read that correctly?
I believe so. Thank you for reading.
Okay. And did you also say in that article, I'm going to quote again, quote, by simultaneously expanding white men's right to kill and constricting women's right not to die, this Supreme Court referring to the current United States Supreme Court, has turned the Constitution into a homicide pact as well, close quote. Did you write that?
That sounds like me.
Okay. In November of 2024, you tweet, don't you?
I'm not sure what the current terminology is for it, but yes, I am sometimes on the social platform that was formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah, you're on a lot, aren't you?
I'm not sure what the relevance of that is.
You try to be provocative on there, don't you?
Again, I'm not sure what the relevance.
Well, let me show you the relevance. On November 7th, 2024, from your tweet, here's one of your tweets at 2:41 p.m. Quote: "The majority of Americans hate women. The majority of Americans hate women more than they love anything, including democracy." Close quote. Did I read that correctly?
I am not sure what this has to do with the subject matter of this.
Did you say it?
I do not have those words in front of me. I probably said something along those lines, but what is the relevance of that to this
Big as
hearing?
Dallas, right there.
Yes.
But your political beliefs don't impact your feelings about President Biden or President Trump.
I don't have feelings about either of them. What I have
Sounds
is
to me like you have your favorite feeling is anger. Let me ask you this. You issued another tweet. This was in May of 2022. You've just been tweeting up a storm. You said, quote, "There's a reason why the conservative-dominated Supreme Court thinks the Constitution does not contain a right to an abortion, but is convinced that it contains an individual right to possess firearms. And that reason is white male supremacy." Close quote. Did I read that correctly?
Is there a question in this?
Did I read that correctly? That's
Is there
my
a question that is relevant to this hearing?
Did I read that correctly? Do you really think that the United States Supreme Court, you're an officer of the court, is guided by white male supremacy?
I believe that the First Amendment prohibits the president and
did
other
you
state
say that?
officials for punishing people for
Did
their
you honestly say that, Professor? And you
believe
expect us,
that the First
as a
Amendment,
Democratic witness, to take you seriously? Are you kidding me?
I believe that you should take
You
the First
heard of
Amendment
curb your
seriously, sir.
enthusiasm? Here's my saying, curb my nausea. Are you kidding me?
I believe that you should take
You
the
heard.
Wow. Kennedy sure knows how to attack people. Man, that was a good one.
Better for the environment than it's made by Tesla Inc., Patel continued as if she hadn't spoken. CEO Elon Musk. You know him. You've tweeted about him 47 times in the last 2 years. Yes, I counted. He tapped his iPad again, and the screen behind them meant for graphics, and B-roll suddenly displayed a compilation of AOC's tweets about Elon Musk. The audience could read them: oligarch, union buster, billionaire, playing with humanity's future, Space Karen. You've called him everything from an oligarch to a threat to democracy, Patel said. Strong words, really strong, but you drive his car every day. The profit from your purchase, let's say Tesla, makes about $5,000 profit per Model 3, went right into his pocket. The audience was silent now, leaning forward. This wasn't what they'd expected. AOC tried to recover. It's electric. It's better for climate change, which is an existential. So is the subway, Patel interrupted gently, which runs 2 blocks from your apartment in Navy Yard. You represent the Bronx and Queens, some of the best public transit in America. The subway, the bus, bike lanes your party pushed for. But you drive a $47,000 luxury car to fight for working people. Someone in the audience laughed quickly, stifled, but it happened. This is ridiculous, AOC said, looking at Sarah Chen. We're talking about transportation when we should be discussing hypocrisy, Patel suggested. Because I think we are discussing that. He leaned forward, his tone still conversational, like he was explaining something to a colleague rather than eviscerating her on live television. Here's what I don't understand, Congresswoman. You've built your entire brand on attacking billionaires, the evil 1%, the oligarchs. But you make them richer. You bought Elon Musk's car. You shop at Amazon. Yes, I've seen the packages delivered to your office. There are photos. You tweet from an iPhone made by Apple worth over $3 trillion. He counted on his fingers. You claim to represent working people while living like you're in the 1%. Your base salary is $174,000 a year. That puts you in the top 10% of American earners, higher than 90% of the people you claim to represent. AOC's face was flushing now, that telltale red creeping up from her collar. My salary is set by Congress. I don't control. But you keep it, Patel said. All of it. While advocating for wealth redistribution. While calling for higher taxes on the rich, which by income includes you. He sat back, spreading his hands. Maybe the problem isn't billionaires, Congresswoman. Maybe it's politicians who build careers attacking success while enjoying all the benefits of it. You're not against capitalism. You're just against other people succeeding at it more than you do. The silence that followed was the kind that makes producers check their audio levels. Sarah Chen cleared her throat. Congresswoman, would you like to respond? AOC opened her mouth, then closed it. Finally, this is a typical right-wing tactic. Distraction, personal attacks. Instead of, I quoted your tweets and cited your salary, Patel said mildly, which part was personal? And that was just round one. Wait until you see what he pulls out about the Met Gala. Drop A if you're ready for this. AOC tried to regain control by pivoting to her greatest hits, the moments that made her famous, the viral instances that built her brand. At least I'm not afraid to make statements about inequality, she said, her voice taking on that passionate quality her fans loved. While people like Cash stay silent while they defend the status quo, I'm willing to take risks, to stand up, to make people uncomfortable. She was referring obviously to the Met Gala. Her team had probably told her to bring it up, turn it from a It's electric, AOC said.
That was part 2. I forgot to do part 1.
Politicians deploy like shields, but the smile of a federal prosecutor who's about to introduce evidence that will destroy a defendant's alibi. She'd arrived at the News Nation America Speaks town hall with her usual confidence, the kind that comes from 3 years of fawning media coverage and millions of social media followers who treat every tweet like scripture. She'd prepared her talking points about billionaire bootlickers and late-stage capitalism. She'd practiced her indignant face in the green room mirror. She'd even coordinated her outfit designer blazer over a tax the rich adjacent message tee for maximum Instagram engagement. Kash Patel had arrived with something different. An iPad, a stack of documents in a leather portfolio, and 15 years of experience as a federal prosecutor and national security official who'd spent his career dealing with people who thought they were smarter than everyone else. What happened in the next 90 minutes would become the most watched political takedown of 2024, and the last time AOC agreed to debate anyone outside her carefully curated safe space. If you've ever wondered what happens when Instagram activism meets actual facts, when viral tweets meet verified documents, you're about to find out. And trust me, you'll want to watch until the end, because what Kash pulled out in round 4 made her entire squad go silent. The stage was set, simply 2 chairs angled toward each other, a moderator's desk between them and a live studio audience of 200 people, carefully balanced between conservatives, liberals, and the politically unaffiliated. News Nation had promoted it as the great debate, populism versus establishment, though the framing already annoyed both participants for different reasons. AOC sat down first, adjusting her lapel mic with the ease of someone who'd done hundreds of interviews. She smiled at the audience that practiced relatable smile that said, "I'm just like you," despite the designer clothes and congressional salary. A few people applauded. She waved. Patel walked out to more applause, louder actually, which seemed to surprise the producers. He sat down, set his leather portfolio on the small table next to his chair, and nodded to the moderator with the kind of professional courtesy that came from years in courtrooms and classified briefings. The moderator, Sarah Chen from News Nation, looked at both of them with the wary expression of someone who knew this could go sideways fast. "Welcome to both of you," she began. "We're here tonight for a substantive discussion about the future of American—" Before we start, AOC interrupted, already pivoting to attack mode. "I just want to say that I think it's interesting that we're having this debate at all. People like Kash Patel represent everything that's wrong with America. The bootlickers for billionaires, the defenders of the 1%, the people who would rather protect corporate profits than protect working families." She was 45 seconds into her stump speech when Kash raised his hand like a student who'd caught the teacher in a mistake. "Sorry," Patel said, his voice calm, and somehow that made it more devastating. "Can I ask a quick question before we get into the prepared attacks?" Sarah Chen looked confused. This wasn't in the format. "I suppose—" "Great." Patel turned to AOC. "How did you get here tonight?" AOC blinked. "Excuse me, to the studio. How did you arrive? Did you take an Uber, subway, walk?" "I drove," she said, her tone suggesting this was a waste of time. "Why does that, in your Tesla, right?" Patel asked. He was already pulling out his iPad, tapping the screen. "The blue Model 3. The one that costs about $47,000. AOC's expression flickered, the first hint that this wasn't going according to her script. Patel held up the iPad, showing a photo to the audience and the cameras. It was AOC unmistakably getting out of a Tesla in the parking structure 20 minutes earlier. Someone on his team had been watching. "This is you arriving tonight," Patel said. "Nice car, by the way. Really nice. Let's talk about that Tesla." When Kash Patel smiled.
Okay, those are two clips on AOC. Got a 3-minute one coming up.
All right, let's get into it. Donald Trump says he's building a grand ballroom at the White House. But what if I told you? There's a wild theory that the ballroom is actually just a lid for something much bigger and much deeper. Here's what's going on. The official story is a $300 million, 90,000 square foot ballroom. Fancy, right? But when you look at the details, none of it adds up. Instead, what's really taking shape might be a secret, ultra-secure data center, like the kind Oracle built in Israel for Project Nimbus, buried 9 stories underground, missile-proof, stuffed with cutting-edge tech. Let's dig into the evidence. First off, the contractors. Trump's picked Clark Construction, not just any builder. They're the go-to for top-secret government projects, including the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency HQ and CISA Cybersecurity Headquarters. They've got special contracts that let them hide the real scope of what they're building. And get this, the architect originally hired was all about classical style and historic buildings, but he got the boot last December. His replacement, Shalom Bares, a guy who made the Pentagon more secure after 9/11, specializes in bunkers and skiffs and has ties to the hardest targets in DC. Then there's the physical evidence. Satellite images show massive steel caissons. Those are like giant tubes used for deep digging, and a heavy-duty crane that only sticks around for big, long-term underground jobs. Power and water upgrades, off the charts. Pepco, the local utility, suddenly filed for emergency power work right by the East Wing, even though downtown DC has more empty buildings than ever. Blackstone, a major donor, is installing backup generators for over 200 megawatts of power. And DC Water's spending hundreds of millions, with plans to study the area right around the White House. Even the Army Corps of Engineers is worried about giant data centers using the Potomac for cooling. Now let's talk donors. You'd expect glitzy brands for a ballroom. Think Baccarat or Steinway. But the donor list reads like a tech summit. Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Palantir, Booz Allen. Plus companies that make data center gear like Carrier for cooling and Caterpillar for massive generators. There's even Boxable, who can deliver prefab shielded building straight out of a spy novel. And then the military's fingerprints are everywhere. Trump himself said, the military is very much involved. The East Wing sits right above the presidential emergency bunker. Tearing it down would give direct access for expansion under maximum security and out of the public eye. So, is Trump's ballroom really about dancing? Or is it the cover story for the most secure data center in America? Built for the government's $500 billion AI project, Stargate? The more you look, the more the pieces fit. Let me know. Are you convinced? Or is this just another DC conspiracy theory? Drop your thoughts below.
How was that one, you guys? I believe this lady was on Rumble, I think. Not sure.
What's her name? Amanda Seyfried? How do you say her last name?
Oh, Seyfried.
Karen from Mean Girls.
Right.
Why are you white? If you're from Africa, why are you white? Karen, you just don't ask people why they're white. You don't remember that from Mean Girls? Can't believe I do. She said while she was promoting some movie that she did, she told Variety that, quote, socialism is a gorgeous idea. And then she added, most people don't understand what the word socialism actually means. This is what she said. For me, it's taking care of each other. And if I have more money, I can spend more money on other people. Oh, wow. She is so dumb. First off, why do you have to have socialism to do that? Why can't you just do it yourself? I don't think she knows what socialism means. Socialism isn't just, well, if I personally want to spend more of my money on someone, I can. That's called freedom. And you can choose to do that if you want to. It's socialist when you decide that your economic choices are going to be our economic choices, and we all have to support the same thing that you're supporting. That's where there is no freedom. And there has not been a successful society on God's green earth in the history of humankind that has successfully implemented socialism ever, without exception. Nada, zilch, zip, none, nothing. So I really don't think that she quite understands private property doesn't exist. You know, in the Soviet Union, when you had the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, USSR, they had 20 million people that died. They died in executions, famines. They forced them to work in gulags. Private property was a non-existent thing. You know, and after World War II, when you had East Germany and West Germany, East Germany was set up to be like a socialist haven like this. And it was under the construct of the USSR. It was a very repressive police state. They had the Stasi that would go out and mess with people and surveil people. And it was basically government-sanctioned terror network. Look at Cuba. The story we have, let me pull this up. We're just talking about Cuba's their health system. They're going through it right now. They've sunk into a health crisis amid medicine shortages and misdiagnoses. It's very bad. They said that they're a country of sick people who have no idea what they're suffering. Speaking of dumb blondes, fake.
Yeah, that lady goes on Rumble, I believe. She used to. She's good.
And from my family, I wasn't sure I was going to come and talk to you guys today, but I had to. Some fantastic news came out. I wanted to be able to share that with you guys. This is piggybacking off a video that I did a couple of days ago in which I talked to you guys about John Brennan. John Brennan is in the crosshairs right now. John Brennan being the former CIA director under the Obama administration. John Brennan is no fan of Donald Trump, as you guys know. Really and truly is no real fan of true conservatives anywhere. And so John Brennan was the one who used the Steele dossier and pushed that for the Russia hoax. He also was one of the main intelligence officers that signed off on the affidavit saying that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russia misinformation. It was given a lot of credence because John Brennan was known as being the leader, the leading voice or the leading expert on all things Russia. That's what he spent the majority of his time supposedly studying and understanding while in the intelligence community and while working as the director of the CIA. But he is now absolutely shook, and we know this because of a letter that was sent to the chief judge there in Miami. If you guys remember, I told you that the Trump administration, so as not to botch this investigation, similar to how the investigation was botched with James Comey and also with Letitia James, they want to make sure that they have all of their I's dotted and all of their T's crossed, but they also want to ensure they're not going to run into another activist judge that is looking to do some favors in order to move forward in their career. So the Trump administration is very, very clearly looking to get none other than Judge Eileen Cannon to see through this case. Now, the grand jury is already being presented evidence, and it seems as though an indictment is imminent. And obviously, the letter that was sent to the chief judge is begging that the chief judge does not appoint Eileen Cannon. Now, Eileen Cannon, for those of you guys that might be new, was the judge that gave the biggest victory that we've seen in a long time. And regardless of what you guys might think about Trump or anything surrounding that, you guys understand that Donald Trump was the victim of an immense amount of lawfare over the summer. It was clear that they wanted to do everything they could to either disqualify Trump from being able to run for office or to at least tarnish his name so that people would not vote for him. Well, part of that shenanigan or shenanigery, if you want to call it, had to do with Jack Smith raiding Mar-a-Lago. And Judge Eileen Cannon was the one who oversaw that entire case and eventually threw it out. She saw through it. She first and foremost asked for all of the documents that they collected during that investigation. Realized that many of the documents that they had produced were duplicates that they had taken pictures of simply to make it look to the media, when they leaked those pictures to the media, that there were more documents than there were. In addition to that, they came to find out that they used Trump's storage container, that they went in and they not only took information out, but they put information in that was not there and put there by Trump. She saw through all of the bull crap, and she finally ended up being honorable, and she threw the case out. That was something that absolutely shocked the entire establishment. And now it's something that they're extremely afraid of. They know that Eileen Cannon, she is a Trump appointee, but she's been very, very fair, if nothing else. She was not working on behalf of Donald Trump, but instead she was rightly dividing the Constitution, and she was rightly applying the Constitution to this case. And I know she'll do the same thing in this John Brennan situation. So it's looking like Eileen Cannon will be the person. We will stay prayerful and watching. I will keep you guys updated, but have a Merry Christmas. Be blessed. I'll see you next time.
Texas is feeling.
Okay, I got another cue there. Go to the 2-hour mark.
He talked about no weapon formed against me shall prosper, speaking about Donald Trump and all of the attacks against him, whether it be through impeachment, whether it be through slander, whether it be through court, whether it be through an assassin's bullet, that no weapon formed against me shall prosper. And just watching that and watching him continue to get up, continue to move forward, should inspire every single one of us. I don't know the state of Donald Trump's soul. I do not know that. And at the end of the day, I'm not here to judge that. But what I can judge is character. And for us to be defeated, for us to be down, for us to be in a depressed state, when God has given us this country and God has given us the ability to fight for it, is shameful on me and to me, because God's not done. And then he got up and he also said that we need revival in our country. And what have I done with that? God has blessed me with a platform, and I'm not here to preach. That's not my job, but blessed me with a platform to speak the truth. And at the end of the day, what is more truthful than the fact that if we follow God, we can accomplish anything. And our country can accomplish anything. And God will save our nation. And only he can do that. No amount of voting, no amount of revolution, no amount of anything, nothing can accomplish what God can accomplish. And if he says no, the door is closed. But he has not said no on this country yet. And I look around and I see people waking up, people that I never thought would wake up and say, you know what, there's got to be something more. And I've looked for solutions in all the wrong places and have come up empty. And guys, that is 100% in my mind. I believe that that is God. And I'm so thankful that I have had this reminder. I'm so thankful to Ben Carson for speaking that truth ever so softly, because it did something to my heart. And it really reminded me of who is in control anyway. Let me know what you guys think. Appreciate you guys. I'll see you next time. Be blessed. And so,
okay, another one. What you mean there, Lori? Who's speaking? So I got a few more short ones, about 3 more, and I'll be back at 5.
Most of us have seen or become aware of the absolutely horrific, devastating multi-car crash that happened.
Letter Q.
And my heart is just breaking for those people. Gatlinburg is home for me. I'm from that area. If you know Gatlinburg, it's a very peaceful, beautiful, it's full of life. People don't go to Gatlinburg to rush. They go there to slow down, to walk and check out the shops, to eat some good Southern food. They go there to take in the beauty of the mountains. Gatlinburg is a place that brings you peace. But sadly and unfortunately, that peace was shattered yesterday. From my understanding and what news I am being fed from back home is there was a woman driving a white van. and she apparently suffered a medical emergency, possibly a seizure while she was behind the wheel, which caused her to hit the gas. And in Gatlinburg, the traffic creeps. Pedestrians are everywhere. And when that happened, everything turned tragic. My understanding, reports are saying that pedestrians were hit, multiple cars were hit. They're saying at least 2 people were confirmed to pass away, multiple injuries. In an area where people were just trying to be laid back.
Another sad story.
And enjoy the scenery. But let's take a moment today to say just a silent prayer. So I'm sure by now, most of us have seen or
Who are you talking to?
You bitch! Now shut the f up!
Here we go.
Respond to me.
Okay, whatever you want.
Period, point blank. Stop talking.
Sorry.
Here's your refund receipt. Sorry, 150.34, 144.40, and I think.
Imagine getting caught stealing and still demanding a refund.
My email for contact.
So if you've been waiting for an opportunity, today is the perfect day to bring out your inner Walmart gremlin, because today's body cam footage is pure retail chaos. We've got skip scanning, we've got screaming, we've got shoe throwing energy, all from a family who is treating Walmart loss prevention like it's the final boss in a video game. This is not an arrest. This is a group project gone wrong at self-checkout.
You want the people that showed them up?
We're all together. All of us was at the register together. Yes, we were. All us. Those are my kids. Those are minors. First of all, you don't have to talk to
you
really don't have to talk to them like that. Please, no, get up.
Go ahead and step out, sir.
What?
It's not a question.
Well, I don't want him to step out.
I didn't ask what you wanted. All right, go ahead and go in with it.
I don't want him out there with that dude out there. And nobody's out there. Because he's going to antagonize him. And then if my husband hit him, y'all going to try to take my husband. Period. So somebody needs to stand out there. Okay.
I can just grab the cart so we can get this part started.
And I want a refund, so I don't want nothing.
You get your hands behind your back?
Why are you putting? What are you trying to fix? Look at this, she's trying to take my phone.
Stop resisting. You're okay. Stop fighting. Stop fighting.
Oh my God, it's so much so fast. First, I just want to say I am absolutely heartbroken that there are minor children that are completely victims in this entire situation. They have to be terrified. They don't know what's going on. I think it's their big sister that's getting arrested right now. And you can see that little girl, she like started to run back into the room because it's like she didn't know what to do. She's like, where's my mom? Where do I go? What is happening? I cannot believe that somebody would bring their children along for the ride when they're committing a crime where they could potentially get busted and arrested. So we've talked about skip scanning on this channel before, right? Walmart knows when you're skip scanning. There are so many cameras that are watching. They can literally see what you are scanning as you're scanning and see what is on the screen at the same time. So if you're skip scanning or you're not scanning something properly, Walmart is going to know. They're not just going to jump in here and arrest somebody because they think you're skip scanning. They know damn well you're skip scanning. And now this woman is saying she's going to sue. Sue for what? A bruised ego?
I'm suing. I'm definitely suing. What the hell?
You want to be
dragging me? What the f
Why are you yelling?
I've been sitting here the whole time.
Okay, part 2 coming up.
Two small hamburgers and a small fry, and this motherfucker came out to how much did it come out to? Hold on, let me see this. This came out to $13.18 for 2 burgers, a small fry, and a small ass drink. Burger King now is like, that's like luxury. It's like now I feel that I be like, look, I take a bitch out, we go to Burger King, bitch, we fucking. That's real shit. Real talk.
And those aren't big burgers. Those are like junior sized burgers. So yeah, he got 2 burgers, fries, and a drink for $13.
Oh, wait,
one
we
might
saw
think,
this
well, dang,
one.
you got 2 burgers. Of course it was $13.
Sorry about that, you guys. That was an old one. Okay. Did we play this one?
Gas shortages. 4 states have declared states of emergency. In North Carolina, 70% of gas stations are without fuel. Virginia.
I would say in the last month, we've seen gas price wars, which we never really experienced too much before.
And now another concern, price
Yep,
gouging.
sure is,
This
sure.
Virginia station charging nearly $7 a gallon.
6 gallons of gas for $35. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jimmy Kimmel. If you're spending part of your Christmas holiday with me, I hope this will be a quiet moment because today's story doesn't need to be loud. It needs attention. In recent days, a quiet phenomenon has begun to unfold across many parts of America. Gas stations are running low. Long lines of people are forming from early morning, not because of a storm, nor because of an oil pipeline accident, but because Canada has reduced its oil exports. In this video, I want to guide you through the consequences of that decision, how a shift made far upstream has spread through supply chains, across state lines, and quietly reshaped the daily lives of millions. Before we begin, if this channel helps you slow down and better understand how global decisions shape everyday life, I invite you to subscribe. Please like the video, share it, and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. I want to begin in Michigan because that's where the shift became impossible to ignore. Over the weekend, the governor declared a state of energy emergency, not because of a storm or a disaster, but because fuel was no longer arriving fast enough to meet everyday demand. At first, the images felt ordinary. Gas stations standing still, covered pumps, signs limiting purchases to 8, 10, sometimes 12 gallons per vehicle. Then the lines appeared. Cars stretched down the street, drivers waiting not in panic, but in quiet uncertainty. People weren't filling up to travel. They were filling up to avoid being left without options. As supplies tightened, prices surged. In many areas, gas climbed past $6 per gallon, the highest level in decades, turning a routine stop into an overnight financial shock. And this wasn't confined to one place. The same scene spread across multiple states, different towns, the same absence. Fuel was slowly disappearing across an entire region. The cause soon became clear. In response to new tariffs imposed by Trump, Carney, acting through Canada's energy heartland of Alberta, began cutting oil exports to the United States. Not completely, but enough to interrupt the flow. And once that flow slowed, the system was exposed. Are you watching this video from Michigan? Please reply yes or no in the comments so I and others who are following this can know. To understand why this disruption spread so quickly, I want you to look past the headlines and focus on the structure underneath. For decades, the northern United States has relied on a single assumption, that Canadian oil would always flow south without interruption. Pipelines were built around it, refineries optimized for it, supply chains learned to treat that flow as permanent, not conditional. When Trump imposed new tariffs, Carney answered through Alberta, quietly, deliberately, and with intent, just enough to apply pressure. That distinction matters. Because this system was never designed for flexibility, it wasn't built to reroute overnight or absorb sudden gaps. Canadian oil wasn't a backup source. It was the foundation. So when the flow slowed, the effects didn't wait. Storage levels thinned faster than expected. Deliveries slipped. Refineries adjusted, then hesitated. What looked like a political disagreement quickly became a physical constraint. This wasn't retaliation in the abstract. It was leverage applied to infrastructure. And once supply became leverage, the question was no longer about trade policy. It was about how much strain a system built on certainty could withstand before it began to fail. If this explanation helped you see what's happening beneath the headlines, not as politics, but as a system under strain, please share this video with someone who should understand it too. Because when infrastructure becomes leverage, awareness matters just as much as policy. I remember the moment this stopped feeling theoretical. Until then, tariffs and retaliation still sounded like distant policy disputes. But once fuel began disappearing on the ground, the system revealed itself in real time. I watched where the first fractures appeared. In Washington state, the impact came almost immediately. Fuel shipments through key northern border crossings collapsed by more than 60% within days. Storage depots in Anacortes and Cherry Point dropped to record lows. Tankers docked in Seattle, waited, and then left empty when Canadian supply failed to arrive. You could see the shift at street level. Gas stations in Seattle, Spokane, and Bellingham posted signs limiting purchases to 8 or 10 gallons per vehicle. Rural stations shut down entirely after deliveries stopped. Lines formed before sunrise, and prices surged past $6 per gallon, the highest level many communities had seen in more than 20 years. Then the strain moved inland. In Michigan, the disruption accelerated even faster. Within 72 hours of Alberta's export cuts, stations in Detroit, Flint, and Grand Rapids began running dry. Prices jumped from about $3.95 to $4.65 in just 4 days, the sharpest spike since the energy turmoil of 2022. Fuel rationing became common, not to calm panic, but to stretch reserves already running thin. This is where dependency became impossible to ignore. Michigan's economy is built on movement. Auto plants rely on precise delivery schedules. When fuel became uncertain, logistics firms pulled back long-haul routes. Manufacturers prepared to cut shifts, not because demand vanished, but because materials could no longer arrive on time. And I want you to notice what did not happen. There was no mass hysteria. What followed was calculation. Truckers canceled nearly 1/3 of scheduled routes. Fishermen in Washington stayed in port as diesel supplies evaporated. Farmers in Minnesota delayed harvest as fuel prices climbed more than 25% in a single week. Families across multiple states adjusted daily routines to conserve fuel, not out of fear, but necessity. This wasn't a temporary inconvenience. It was a system bending under pressure.
Say it'll take days before fuel supplies.
Okay, I'm going to finish off with the 4-minute one. I don't know where the part 2 was.
Santa Claus lie. I wouldn't keep watching. First, what you need to know is Jesus wasn't a December baby. He was a Virgo, and based on biblical text and astronomical alignment, it's been proven that he was September. Most likely September 11th. That's why they chose September 11th to do what they did. But what you also need to know is that many ancient Babylonian gods and sun gods also have this birthday of December 25th. It's celebration of the return of the sun, S-U-N, not S-O-N. Because what some of you might not realize is that the winter solstice, it's not the Earth's tilt changing as it returns around the sun. No, the sun circles us, and it's out here in the winter, and it starts to make its return to the north in the summer. So really what they have got you celebrating is the sun, not the S-O-N. And the sun gods as well, all celebrated on December 25th. Oh, and don't forget Nimrod, who became a symbol of defiance against God, who was said to also be celebrated on December 25th. And the funny thing about him is he's holding a tree and has a beard. But convincing all of humanity to think they're celebrating the birth of Jesus when they're really celebrating a bunch of sun gods is only half the story. There's a whole other part, because I'm sure you've probably noticed that Santa Claus is an anagram for Satan. And maybe you've noticed a few similarities, even down to the red. But there's even a more nefarious plot, in my opinion, and it's down to psychology. Because if you can convince a young, impressionable child that a jolly fat man can fly around all over the world in a short amount of time and fit his fat butt down your chimney and deliver you presents and eat your milk and cookies, but then it was all of a sudden, that jolly fat man is a big old lie, well, you know what else it might make difficult to believe in? Yeah. That heavenly Father up there that created all of this for us, because you can't see him, especially when you were told that everything happened from a big bang and you evolved from a monkey and that you live on a spinning globe. Well, that hides him pretty well. It really does. It did for me for 42 years. especially when at the same time you're learning Santa isn't real and you're having dinosaurs and space and evolution and the Big Bang shoved down your throat. And well, you can kind of see those because the TV presents them to you over and over and over and pushes it on you, and space and dinosaurs and space and dinosaurs. Well, yeah, it can hide God from you really well. And that's the real evil in Santa Claus, because it programs your mind to no longer believe in the supernatural, in the spiritual, in the unbelievable. The unbelievable, like having a firmament over our heads. The unbelievable, like living somewhere so beautiful and precious that you take it for granted because you think it evolved over billions of years and that you just evolved from a tadpole. So I have news for you, my friends. Santa Claus is pure evil. Pure evil. And hey, no judgment for me. I don't even have kids. But if I did, I don't know. I don't think I'd be lying to him about Santa Claus squeezing his fat, jolly red butt down a chimney. I really don't. Now, my wife, she might have something to say about it, but of course, all this for entertainment purposes anyway. I just made up all that stuff. None of those sun gods were really born on the winter solstice where the sun is actually returning to warm us. No, I really believe the earth is on a 66.6 degree tilt, and the sun looks different because we're coming around it at a different angle now. Entertainment only, people. Have a Merry Christmas.
Okay, image guy. That wasn't a good one, that one. Oh, you did? I'll play it at 5 o'clock, Mike. Leave me your contact number, Mike, again. I'll text you so you can send it on my phone. I left my email there. Do you see it? Well, you already got the email. Okay, everybody. That's the first show today. We'll be back here in a few hours. And it's Friday. Oh, you don't have a phone? Oh. Great. Okay, I'll look at the email then. I'll play it tonight. So, okay. So, yeah, I didn't have no mods today. We did a good job with no interruptions. Hope everyone had a good day yesterday. And get everybody back in on the evening show tonight. God bless everybody. Love all. And please hit the like and make sure you go to the description box and sub to the backup channels. And stay safe, stay strong. Keep the faith and never give up. All right. So we'll sign it off. Chico and Dude. Till this evening, guys. See you soon.